Welcome to the Firehouse, the show dedicated to the brave men and women who serve our community.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Firehouse on WRHU 88.7. I am your host, Chris Moses, and today, sitting with me in the Firehouse is none other than Chief Bill Wade. What is going on? How you feeling?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I cannot complain.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, and I am glad you're here.
And thank you for your invite.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yep.
So, I know who you are. You gave me a kind of a little thing last night about, Oceanside and about you being chief, but the listeners, they don't know.
Right.
So please tell them. I need to know what department you're in, how long you've been in, right? What ranks you've held.
Right.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, I'm currently the most recent former chief of the Point Lookout-Lido Fire Department. I've been there for 11 years now. Okay. And that came after being a member of Oceanside Fire Department, which I joined Southside Hose Company number 2 in September of 1983.
1983. You know how old I was?
Yeah,
I was 1.
I get that a lot.
Make you feel old.
I get that a lot.
But I was 1. I was born in 82.
I get that a lot. Anyway, and that came from being influenced by my older brother, who was a member of Reliance Hose Company number 3 in Rockville Center, another great company. Okay. So my childhood got spent a lot there, and obviously that was a positive influence in me, and it just worked towards me joining. My brother joined, I think, the same year or slightly before me. And then, at that time in the early 80s, I was one of, I think, maybe 15 or 18 guys that just joined my company alone. Wow. The Oceanside Fire Department in just a few years ballooned to well over 300 guys. Wow. Because there were so many young guys joining the fire department. And the positive thing that came out of that is, to this day, I am friends with so many people, from 40 years ago.
Yeah, and that's one thing, just for our listeners and people that want to join and thinking, that's what you get when you join the volunteer services. You get lifetime friends.
You do.
Lifetime friends. I still started, I don't have much time as you, but 16 years, I have friends that, are solid friends, will be my friends for a lifetime, and that's what you gain, right?
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit more about, you said that it was your brother, right? So that was your influence. So that's one of using my questions. People don't just wake up and say, I want to run into a fire, right? So where did that come from? Because sometimes people watch their family members do stuff and say, I don't want to do it. Right. What gave you that spark that said, you know what, I want to follow these footsteps and I want to go there?
Well, there was a lot of aspects of the fire department, and joining, obviously being part of a team, being part of a brotherhood. Yeah. There was not only the fire department end of it, there was the racing team.
Yes.
The
Uniondale used to have the Hellcats, I think they were called.
Yep. And we immediately got into that. And but there was other things, softball and other athletic things, that we all got involved in. But the spark for firefighting wasn't there yet. Okay. I had to actually learn that part of it. But in making a firefighter, usually that's the make or break moment when you take somebody and you put them into a IDLH, environment. Mm-hmm. And that's usually when they choose, hey, I don't want to do this, or, okay, that scared the hell out of me, but I want to do it again.
I want to keep going.
Do you want to do it again? Yeah.
And it's funny. That's something that we have said on this show before. Like, we always say, like, listen, everyone will be scared. Any firefighter that tells you they're not scared, they're lying. Right. Everyone's scared, but will it hinder your job? Right? And you won't know until you're there to say, you know what, this wasn't so much for me.
Right. And the other big influence was the older guys in Oceanside Fire Department and instructors at the Nassau County Fire Service Academy, who showed the belief in me. And I looked at the calmness of how they conducted themselves, how they brought us into a fire, and I said, I want to be like them.
Yep, there you go.
I want to be like them. Mm-hmm. But, that takes years. That doesn't happen in a 5 or 10 year period. That happens over a length of your career.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, you spend every day learning. I
right.
still
You do.
I still go with the belief that you can learn something new every day.
Every day.
Yep.
Every single day.
Yes.
Oh no. So yeah, definitely. So that was what kind of made you say, you know what, I want to do this.
Right.
Like, you know what, I want to do this because, even with that, volunteer, a lot of people don't even realize that, a lot of, the FD, especially in Long Island, is all volunteer. So
right. It is.
You're doing this for free.
That's correct. And the biggest sacrifice, of course, is time.
Time.
And yes, through the years, I have lost out on family events.
Yeah.
Running out the door, missed the dinner.
Yep.
Rolled out the door at the anger of my mom at the time when I was young. The pager would go off, and
you're out.
And me, my brother, and my brother-in-law would be out the door. And we'd be in the car in 15 seconds. And
there
and
you
on
go.
The way
And it's
to
so
the
funny.
Firehouse.
I had Chief Senti on the show, and she was telling me about how it was her 2 brothers,
right,
her father,
her grandfather.
They all run out the house at the same time, and I was like, who needs the award? Mom,
right? Yes.
Mom that held it, and that
yes.
is funny because that's going to be a part of this show soon, where I'm going to start bringing on family members because they also deserve flowers because they're holding down the homes when we're in Sandy, when we're in there, they're by themselves.
That's correct.
While their entire families are
yes.
out doing servant, leadership and servant things. So I just think it's amazing. So, shout out to the moms and the families
yes.
that hold down those homes while we're running out.
And during an installation dinner, we give the wives, the girlfriends, or the significant others,
Yep.
Flowers, and they should be getting a whole lot of flowers.
They should be getting a whole bunch of stuff.
They should.
Listen, and they got to deal with all of us, right?
They do. They have to deal with us every day.
Every single day. But so, listen, how many years in total, have you been in the fire service?
Either professionally or volunteer. It's 40 years now.
40 years.
Yeah.
40 years. So with 40 years, Bill, I know you got some stories.
I
know you got some stories.
Yep.
So please share at least 1 or 2 good stories with us of something that happened and something going on, whether it's fire, EMS, whatever.
It's hard to choose from in my early years because we did have a few significant incidents.
Okay.
But back then, everybody on Long Island had more fires than we have now. We had a lot more fires. So, and I'll just pick Long Beach as one thing where we were down there quite frequently, back in the 80s and into the early 90s. And I always
and let me just stop you really quick because I want the listeners to understand what you just said. You said that there was a lot of fires back then. Why? Because fire prevention was not the way it is now.
That's correct.
Right? Fire prevention wasn't that. So you all were toning out with jobs probably left and right.
Yes, that's correct.
But go ahead, you can finish. I just want to make sure the listeners understand why it's different from now.
I always tell people that I learned to become a fireman in Oceanside. I learned to become a very good fireman in Long Beach. Because that's where we spent time crawling down hallways. Mm-hmm. We were in multiple apartment buildings.
Wow.
Sometimes, we were at 2 or 3 fires. We'd be down there sometimes twice a week, 3 times a week, for a long stretch, for a decade and a half. And it was incredible how many incidents we went to. But a lot of time was spent. There's all the fun side of the fire department, but the real thing about it is being in that hallway.
Being in that hallway,
yep.
Right? So tell me a story. Good story. What you got for me?
Early on in my career, we had I think I was a probie fireman, not long in, and we had a overturned tanker on Long Beach Road in Oceanside at the corner of Cortlandt Avenue. Came in as an auto accident originally. We woke up to the power being out in the house, so I knew somebody hit a pole or the wires came down. Right, and my brother beat me out the door. He took the car to the firehouse, and I went to the corner, and the power's out. I don't see his thing at the intersection of Henrietta and Long Beach Road where it originally came in, and I see a guy across the street in the parking lot with a Nassau County cop, and I said, "Let me go over and ask them what's going on." I put 1 foot out on Long Beach Road. And boom, the tanker exploded. But I didn't know it was a tanker. I just,
So you just hear the explosion.
All I saw was a giant fireball the entire width of Long Beach Road coming at me. And I'm like, what in the world? So anyway, I ran back around the corner, and I mean, everything was on fire. It wound up being a 15-hour incident. Wow. It resulted in a double fatality in a car that ran a red light and was struck by the oil tanker. The oil tanker flipped.
Wow. Okay.
And it resulted in the destruction of 6 buildings. It was quite a large incident, and I could have easily ran the other way, being a Pro B fireman and being and shaking in my boots. But I
kept going.
No, I just went right towards.
Didn't let it hinder you.
And that's something like my wife and my daughter had trouble understanding the whole time. They're like, hey, that's dangerous. Don't go near it. I'm like, no, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to not go towards something.
That's where I want to go.
Because my training is pulling me that way.
It's telling me to go there and help. And how can I be assistance to this situation?
Correct. Right. My training is sending me forward.
Sending you right there.
So that was one of the earlier incidents, and that was one of the biggest incidents in Oceanside.
Wow. So the 80s, you're saying, 83 you said you started. So
correct.
The 80s, what does the equipment look like in the 80s? Like what are you wearing, right?
We're wearing long coats, pull-up boots.
Pull-up boots?
Yeah. And
so we're talking what we're going to talk about later. We're talking backdraft,
right.
What they're wearing.
Exactly. And it was equipment that was stored on the rig itself, not in the firehouse. It was folded on the gear racks in the on the truck. So
so you got to walk us through that.
So
let's start from the beginning.
Right.
In the 80s, Tone's out for a call. You show up to the firehouse. Who's getting out first? You or your brother?
Well, most of the time it was the same. We both got there together.
Okay, you got there together. All right, so you're both out there. You get to their firehouse.
Right.
Walk me through it. What happens?
You would get on the rig, and a lot of guys at that time that lived right near the firehouse. So we had 2 trucks, 2 engines that rolled out of that firehouse.
Okay.
And almost always we would miss the first engine. And
Okay.
you would get to the firehouse, and if not, what we used to have at the traffic light was called a pickup point, where if you missed the firehouse,
you could get picked up right there. So you're just sitting there right there waiting.
Light. But the truck would stop, and up in the hose bed you'd go. You climb up in the hose bed, and you'd sit there and you'd look at you'd size up the boots. And
so as you're going to the call, you're on the top.
Getting dressed. Correct. Yes.
You got to love the 80s, listeners. You got to love the 80s.
And what it taught you, especially if you rode the back step or if you rode the hose bed, you knew where the trees were. You know when when the duck. Right? And you knew every bump in every road in town.
Because here it come. Everybody duck. Hold on.
Yes.
So wait, you're getting dressed, and I've heard this before. You're getting dressed on the back step.
Yes.
So how are you even... Are you guys? I mean, I've heard that people are holding each other.
Well, that's exactly what we would do. If it was 2 guys getting there, you would hand a pair of boots down. You put one boot up, you throw your sneakers up in the hose bed. Put one boot on, throw the other sneaker up, put the other boot on, and then the other guy would hold the rail like this, and you'd put the coat on. Wow. And then in turn, vice versa.
Then you do it, and then you do it.
Exactly.
But by you got to the firehouse, everybody is PPE ready to go and ready to go.
Right. And then, there was the rides to Long Beach, and a lot of those major fires were in the winter. So if you got on the hose bed and
it's cold.
Where you stood in the pecking order decided whether you rode the back step or whether you got up in a hose bed. So
where would
the rookies would go up in the hose bed.
On the hose bed?
Mm-hmm. And the more ranking guys would be
on the back step.
Shielded a little bit from the wind.
Ah, yeah. Well, you're up there.
Oh, yeah. And you wouldn't even bother getting dressed. You would grab a coat, pull it out, and bury yourself in the hose bed until you
just
got
wait
there.
Until you got there. I'll be there in a second.
And then you would get dressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep.
I mean, listen, that's the 80s for you.
Yes.
It's definitely the 80s.
And then we made that transition from the late 80s into the early 90s where we transitioned both in equipment, the firefighting gear, and the trucks themselves because the NFPA and the OSHA rules
started coming in.
So you no longer were allowed to have open cabs. So we had to transition from riding the back step to riding inside the truck.
Okay.
It was something I didn't like. Tradition is a big thing in the fire department, and nobody likes change. So, but once it only took me a couple of months, to go, hey, this is much better.
This is much better.
Yeah, I like this.
Well, I assume guys were still trying to ride that back step.
Right, but they weren't allowed.
How is the transition, though? So when you transition, I have these rigs. Was it, we got to get rid of these rigs now as soon as these laws came in? Or, like, how did that work?
Well, there was an option back then to retrofit the rigs where you could actually have it modified to have it enclosed. And some departments did that. And modified their rigs, sent it out to a truck manufacturer, and they would weld in doors and stuff like that, and put it in the clothes. And the professional fire departments were going through it at the same time. So across the board, we were all going through it.
Okay.
And then the second part of that was we were also making the change from the pull-up boots and the long coats into encapsulated gear or bunker gear.
Correct. So I can imagine that.
Right.
I know people didn't like that because
no, I didn't.
They liked the free.
Well, I didn't mind it. It's just that I felt that it was kind of dangerous because
you don't know how hot it is.
You didn't know how hot it was, and you had the hood now, and I was taught at an early age to my ears. Yep. That's how I learned. When you were near the fire, when your earlobes started.
There you go.
Hot.
Did you hear what he said? Listeners, that's how it was back then, where it was, listen, your ears, you start burning. Not that I know, but these are things that I've heard.
Right.
Your ears start burning. Hey, I'm getting a little too deep, or I'm getting closer to the fire.
Right.
Hey, let's get this hose line.
And
in
at
there
that moment,
whatever.
your ears were starting to get warm. You had an instructor or an older guy next to you going, "It's not hot enough yet. Come on,
let's go. Keep going. You're like, they're
bubbling.
bubbling.
Going right. The fire's right around the corner. Don't worry about your ears.
Don't worry about it.
Fires.
So I got a question for you because, in Lido Beach, right? Where are the hydrants? Like, how does that work? Are there I can imagine there's not hydrants as much as on a regular. Is on a regular street? There's still an amount of hydrants. And I want to bring this up because I'm pretty sure these are questions that listeners has. We think of a beach. When you're on the beach, I don't see any hydrants.
Right.
When I'm on the beach.
You have two communities, Lido Beach and Point Lookout.
Okay.
And they're separated by about 2.5 miles. And then in between, you have all those beaches.
Yep.
And the golf course.
Brush, all of that. So
correct.
Where?
But they're there. They're
in there.
Right. However, if we have a structure fire, and there aren't too many structures, they're with the beaches themselves, but in the facilities themselves. There are hydrants that we can resource.
That you can kind of get to there. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But in the communities, they're there.
They're there. Where they're not.
Yeah, they're just as frequent as they are in anybody else's town.
Okay.
All
right. So let's talk about your chief. Right?
Yes.
So you decide that I am going to be in the fire services.
Correct.
What makes you say now I am going to keep going in the ranks, right? And then go up as high as chief. Well, a lot of people don't realize you're now not just looking at your company and dealing with the knuckleheads in your company.
Right.
You're dealing with the knuckleheads for every company.
Correct.
And they're all looking at you. So what makes you want to do that? And, how is that?
Well, when I joined Point Lookout, it was very manageable because coming from Oceanside, when I joined Point Lookout, the membership in Point Lookout equaled the same amount of people that were when I was captain of the South Side.
Wow.
I had, I had 65 active members in Southside when I was captain.
Wow. Okay.
So that equaled the entire Point Lookout-Lido Fire Department. So they're like, is this manageable? I'm like, yeah, I can manage this. This is a piece of cake, know. But with any community, all things being equal, the one thing that you need when you run for a lieutenant or a captain or chief, you need knowledge and you need training. Right. And I promote this to my people all the time. If a class comes up, take it. It's not about what it is and whether you want to run for lieutenant or captain, whatever your aspirations are, it's going to come and go. It's going to coincide with that training.
That's right.
You know, and there's different levels in different departments as to what the qualifications are. I have to be a lieutenant or a captain or a chief. But as you go up in rank, that list becomes larger.
Yep.
So if you get that all out of the way in your younger years, and you can schedule these classes besides primary and essentials. The Nassau County Fire Service Academy is considered to be one of the finest training academies in America, and I fully believe that. And their classes are just incredible. And I recommend to anybody in Nassau and Suffolk that if your community offers and your fire academy offers these classes, and you have the time to take them, not once, do it sporadically, do it over a couple of years period, 3, 4, 5 years, or whatever it is.
That's right.
Take them.
And
even if you don't run for lieutenant or anything else, each one of those classes is going to make you a better firefighter.
That's right. That is
at
so
the
true.
least. That's what it's going to do. So you can't be steered wrong.
You can't be wrong. And just for the listeners that don't know, as well as besides it helping you be a better firefighter, there also gives you a college credit.
That's
each
correct.
one of those classes. Just even for me, for my degree, when I had, when you go to a new school, you give them all your stuff. I gave them my fire service transcript, and it gave me credits towards my degree. So besides just being a better firefighter and learning more, it will help you in your everyday.
Correct.
So,
and then of course you you have the EMT end of it.
Yep. There you go.
The paramedic end.
Yep.
And that's a lot of training right there.
But it's a whole career.
All of that adds. That's correct.
Yep.
And it opens the door to other things. It did for me.
Yeah. Look at that.
It did for
me.
me.
It did for you because you're a dispatcher.
Right.
You're a dispatcher. So I know I have to ask this question. I always ask this question to dispatchers. Does it make you cringe when you're listening on the radio and people are doing things wrong or not saying it the right way? Like, how does that feel? Because you do this professionally.
Right.
You literally talk on the mic professionally.
Right.
You know what to say, what codes, how to say it. Does it make you cringe? Like, why is he saying it like that?
Well, of all the aspects that we have in training, believe it or not, the least amount of time is spent on the radios. So there you go. So a lot of people don't know how to talk on the radio. You have to offer right off the bat. You have to offer them the county code signals, and what I always recommend to young firefighters is to get a scanner, get a radio, get something. You can even do it on an app on your phone now.
Yep.
Listen to how they talk. Listen to how it should be done, and obviously sometimes people aren't the greatest on the radio, and that's not the way to talk. It's not the way to handle something. But listen to and strive to look after the people that or want to be one of the people that talks clearly.
There you go.
Is calm on the radio, and can knows what to say. You always tell some people, think before you talk.
That's right. Take that breath. Take a quick breath
second.
before
What is it that I want to say before I push the button?
There you go. Don't push and then start thinking.
In the Chiefs end, the good thing is if you do have all the mutual aid, all the policies are all built in. So if you pull up to a fire and say, signal 10, that's all you have to say.
That's all you got to say.
That's all you have to say, because everything else is taken care of. And next thing you know, you got an army coming towards you to help you.
That's right. I was always taught that Firecom is a candy store. If you're scared, you're not sure, call Firecom. They will help you.
They'll handle it.
They will tell you what you need and everything.
Yes.
I was always told that.
And they'll get it for you.
And they will. They will get it for you. They're sitting there waiting.
Yes.
So I love that. All right. So another question. And if you have it, it's okay if you don't. But I need to know, is there anything that you want to debunk right now? That you want to debunk about firefighting that you've heard? So let me give you some examples. I've heard we don't get cats in trees.
Well, we don't.
Yeah, we don't.
We don't. And
we don't get cats out of trees.
I tell my own family members, I go, one, you ever see a skeleton of a cat in a tree? And I said, no. I said, there's no such thing as a cat stuck in a tree.
It just doesn't happen.
I said, there's one of 3 reasons that cat is up there. One, either it's too young to realize that it can get down just as well as it just got up there. Number 2, there's something at the bottom of the tree that chased it up there.
And I'm being safe.
Or number 3, it just doesn't feel like coming down.
That's it.
It's the only one of 3 reasons that cat's still up there.
But yeah, so anything that you could think of that you would want to debunk that you've heard, like that, we don't do or we do.
Well, I mean, the cats is one
it's
thing.
Definitely one.
But some people are taken aback by when I count, and I do their training, and we train young firefighters, and the public sees us rush into a building to save somebody or to get them out of a building, and I tell them, if I'm in that situation, who's the most important person? They go, the victim. And I go, no, it's me.
That's right.
I'm the most important person. To me, I'm the most important person. I'm not being selfish, but if I don't do what I'm supposed to do and I don't act the way my training has taught me to act, then I'm going to get hurt and I'm not going to be able to help that person.
That's so true. That is so true.
So you're the most important person when you're doing that, and your team, and you're trying to accomplish a goal. And that goal, if you get on a fire truck or an ambulance and you don't safely arrive to the scene to help them out,
yep.
Now you're taking resources away.
You become part of the problem.
You do.
You become part of the problem.
That's true, because now the resources that are meant to help the public now are being used to help you.
Yep. We tell that always to the young guys that want to rush to the firehouse in the car. Slow down, because if you crash, you now become a part of the problem.
Yes,
you're not helping us any now.
Right.
Slow down. Take your time. Get to the firehouse safely, and then we can do our job.
That's correct.
That is the definite.
And that transfers to when you get on the fire truck.
That too.
Get to the scene safely.
Okay.
And then when you're there, operate safely.
That's right.
That's
right. All right. So, listen, we're going to play a quick game.
Yes.
Quick game, Chief. All right. The game is called the Flashover.
Is there money involved in it?
You know what? I should start adding some money.
I got a couple of nickels in my pocket.
All right. So the game is called the Flashover. Chief, really quick, what's a flashover?
Flashover is when the temperature rises to a point where everything in the room becomes combustible and combust at the same time.
Really quick.
That is correct.
Just like that.
And I actually had that experience once.
You have?
And yeah.
Obviously, you were far enough away, because I was always taught if you're in the room and that happens, it's pretty much over.
No, thank God the exits were right there.
So you were able to.
But I mean, from the time that, it happened and I knew I was in trouble till the time that I made the front door, was probably 6 seconds, maybe 7 seconds, but it was a lifetime.
It was a lifetime.
It was literally a lifetime, and I'll go into detail later after the show about
no,
it.
Talk about it. All right. So with the game Flashover is quick. I may ask you something like Android or Apple. You got to tell me which one you like, but the answer's quick. Right. We're going to do TV shows. If you haven't seen it, say I haven't seen it, and we'll move on, okay?
Yeah.
All right. You ready for the Flashover, Chief?
Yes.
All right. Chicago Fire, Rescue Me.
Never seen. Rescue Me, I've seen.
All right.
Chicago Fire, I've seen.
All right. But which one? Which one do you like better? That's what I want to know. Either one? You like either? Neither one.
No.
All right. Rescue Me, Third Watch.
Both of them don't like either one of them.
Don't like either one of them.
No.
All right. How about this? Backdraft Ladder 49.
Both of them, I don't like either one.
Don't like either one. No. All right. And I'm gonna have to ask about that in a second. But the last question and the most important question I'm gonna ask: engine or truck?
Either one.
Either one.
I've been an engine guy all my life, but I know how to do truck work well. And it doesn't matter to me.
Either way.
I don't have a
All right, so you got to quickly tell me. Like you said, all those shows you don't like. Why?
Because they weren't real.
They're not real.
There was one true show that was real.
Which one?
Emergency. Back in the 70s.
I remember that show.
None of those.
Not remember. I remember seeing it.
Right. Mm-hmm. None of those shows can truly reproduce what it's like in a real fire.
That's right.
Because you're not going to see anything.
That's right.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be, if you not have zero visibility, you're going to have limited visibility.
That's right.
And they can't replicate on a TV show. But if in picking up Chicago Fire or Third Watch, they seem to have a major disaster every day. Who does that? Who faces that? Nobody.
Nobody. It's done every single day.
And the writers of the show have to come up with some crazy
thing that's going on.
I mean, I've faced crazy things, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
I
love it.
They're not every Tuesday.
I love it. Listen, Chief, thank you so much for coming down.
Oh, you're welcome.
Before you leave, I got one question. Is what piece of advice would you give a new firefighter or even someone that is that's listening and thinking to join? What advice would you give them?
1, come down to the firehouse. 2, ask questions.
That's right.
Be inquisitive. Ask why things are the way they are. Why does it work? Why does the the truck do that? Why does the engine do that? Why is I had a interview with a guy last Sunday, and he just thought a fire truck was a fire truck. And then standing next to him, I showed him that's a ladder truck, that's an engine, that's a heavy rescue, that's an ambulance. And I said, and then we went over to the truck, and I broke down what each of the trucks do. And he said, I didn't know that. I just figured fire trucks were fire trucks.
Look at that.
You know, and we spent about an hour together, and it was great. He was like, I just didn't, member of the public. He's like, I knew none of this before.
Wow. See, there you go. So just come down, ask questions.
Ask questions. And listen to the older guys.
Listen
to the senior members in your department, the guys who are experienced, the guys who, the men and women who have done it before. They'll guide you in the right direction.
Watch them.
Learn.
Listen, Chief.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming down.
God,
thank you so much, man. This is going to be
I'm blessed
great.
to be a part of this. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so thank you. Listen, we just heard from Chief Bill Wade from the Point Lookout and Lido Beach Fire Department about his life as a firefighter. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. I am your host, Chris Moses, and I hope that you guys will tune in next week for another great conversation in the Firehouse.